Learning how to code keeps getting easier every year. You used to have to spend 4 years in college before a company would hire you. Then, boot camps promised you a job after just 6 months of intensive study. And now, with AI, you can open up your laptop and start coding just by downloading a program like Cursor or Claude Code. Sounds pretty easy, right? Well, the reality is very different from the promises made by the marketing departments of AI companies. My name is Pat, and I'm a software engineer with over 20 years of experience building and leading projects at companies of all sizes. And I'm going to give you advice on the best way to learn how to code in 2025. First, the reality. You can't just have AI spit out code and call yourself a developer. If you're just asking ChatGPT to code for you, all you're really doing is testing the results and hoping you gave it the right prompt. But using AI the right way is a very useful tool when you're trying to learn how to code. And I'll explain the right way to use AI to learn how to code later in the video. But it's important to understand that programming is a skill, and that means you have to know the basics of learning any skill. First, learning takes time. Don't expect overnight success. It could take as long as a year before you're comfortable in a programming language, depending on how much time and effort you put in. And even once you are proficient, there's always more to learn. In fact, the more you learn, the more you realize there's more to learn. Second, consistency is key. You want to show up every day. You'll get far better results if you put in 1 hour of work every single day, as opposed to putting in 7 hours of work just on every Sunday. This has been proven over and over again in studies, and it just kind of makes common sense too. If you're working on something every day for an hour, you're going to keep reinforcing what you learn every single day, and you're more likely to make those long-term memories permanent in your brain. Whereas if you're just doing a 7-hour block at once, number one, that 7-hour block probably is not going to be as high a quality because it's hard to keep attention for that long. And then two, over the next 6 days, that information is just going to be leaking out of your brain and not forming long-term memories. So if you can, make it a daily habit because that's going to give you much better results. Third, keep the work challenging but not overwhelming. This is something else that's backed by science. There's a zone of activity where you're challenged, but you're still able to overcome those challenges, and that'll give you the best growth in learning. For example, if you just learned how to make static websites, if all you do then is keep making more static websites, you're not going to learn anything new. You're not challenged. But if you instead decide, okay, I can make a basic website, now I'm going to jump into trying to make a new Netflix-like streaming service, you are biting off way more than you can chew, and you're going to run into so many failures that you're also not going to be learning because you're just going to be constantly frustrated by how far out of reach the goal is for you. Instead, you want to build on what you know and add some incremental challenges to it. So for our example where you know how to do a static website, maybe now you could write a weather website where you have to go and fetch the current weather for a particular zip code or a city and then update the HTML dynamically with the results of that. So now you're learning how to use JavaScript in a browser to call an API, and then you're also learning how to update the HTML dynamically once you get back the results. The final scientifically backed ingredient for fast learning is getting instant feedback on your work. And luckily with programming, this is very easy because you're always getting instant feedback. Either your application compiles and runs, or it doesn't. But keep in mind that the best kind of feedback you're going to get is by finishing projects, because there you're actually going to know, what you set out to accomplish, did you actually accomplish it? And if not, why didn't you? And what do you still need to learn? What do you need to go back and review to get better at? Additionally, finishing projects will also give you a huge confidence boost because finishing projects feels great. And that dopamine boost is going to keep you coming back for more projects and keep you learning more. Okay, so you have the right mindset for learning programming as a skill. How do you actually go about learning how to code? Well, first, you want to pick a language that you can stick with for a long time. You don't want to hop between languages because that'll just slow you down. There's a cost to learning the syntax and idiosyncrasies of a new language, and at this stage in your learning, it's just not worth it. If you aren't sure which language you should learn, I recommend either JavaScript or Python. If you know for sure that you want to work on LLMs or machine learning or data analysis, then Python is probably going to be the one you want to pick. Otherwise, I recommend using JavaScript because it's used pretty much everywhere. You can do the entire full stack just in JavaScript. And even if you're thinking, well, I want to be able to write applications that talk to LLMs, you're still probably going to want to go with JavaScript because the actual communication to an AI, to an LLM, is happening through the network, and any programming language can access that. It's not specific to Python. Now that you've picked a language, you need to get a plan for how to learn how to code. Don't try to figure it out on your own, and don't waste time trying to come up with your own course plan when there are so many other ones out there you could pick from, either free or paid. There are many free options. For instance, if you wanted to learn web development, you can do the Odin project, or you could also try, I've heard Free Code Camp is a good option as well. And there's also plenty of paid options as well. Udemy obviously has a whole bunch of different courses covering all different aspects of programming. I've heard good things about boot.dev if you know specifically you want to learn backend development. At the end of the day, having a predefined learning structure will help you avoid trying to figure it out on your own or getting stuck in YouTube tutorial hell where you just sit around watching disconnected YouTube videos and not actually doing any coding. One other tip about picking your coursework, you want to make sure you learn the fundamentals before you start jumping into frameworks. For example, don't try to learn TypeScript if you haven't learned JavaScript yet. You want to learn how JavaScript works before you try to figure out how TypeScript, which is just adding new things to JavaScript, actually works. Another great example is don't learn React if you aren't able to build a basic web application using just HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript that's interacting with the DOM, with the browser. If you don't know how the basic language works, how the basic fundamentals work, you're building the rest of your knowledge on a weak foundation, and you're going to run into problems in the long term when you run into problems that the framework isn't able to help you out with. And this applies to any part of the tech stack. Learn Java before you learn Spring Boot. Learn CSS before you start using Tailwind. This is just my advice, but I strongly recommend it. You're going to get so much more out of learning the framework once you actually know how the foundational languages work underneath it. Once you have your plan, you want to make sure you're getting the right mix of teaching and doing. In order to learn how to code, you actually have to write a lot of code, and I mean a lot. Pretty much every day you should be writing code. So if you're just watching lectures that cover abstract concepts and you're not actually getting any work done, not actually writing any code, you're probably not really learning much. You're not retaining much of that information. In my opinion, if you're not spending at least half of the time that you have allocated to working on learning how to code, if you're not spending half of that time actually coding, you're probably not learning as fast as you could be. And that's actually like a minimum, a bare minimum. In reality, it might even be more like, multiple times the amount of time spent you're watching videos, you should actually be coding. Now that you have your language, you have your plan, and you're actually coding, how does AI fit into learning how to code? Well, you should treat AI as a learning tool, not as a coding tool. You don't want AI to actually write any code for you. Instead, as you go through and learn something, go back and ask AI to give you more practice problems. And what's nice about that is you can also ask it to either increase or decrease the difficulty. So if you find a concept to be very easy, you can say, hey, I just learned this concept. Can you give me some practice problems and make it harder, increase the difficulty? Or if it gives you some questions, you complete them and you want to learn some more, you can ask it, okay, those were good questions. Can you increase the difficulty and give me more questions? Or conversely, if you try it to learn something and it's too hard, you can also then ask it to try easier questions so you can then at least tackle something that will get you to learn the easier bits of the concepts before moving back to what you found to be more difficult. Similarly, you can ask AI to give you ideas for projects that you can do. This way, you can actually use your newfound skills to make something. And again, you just simply tell it, hey, I just learned these concepts in JavaScript. I know X, Y, and Z. Can you give me some project ideas that I can accomplish in a certain number of days or a week or 2 weeks, whatever you want it to do, and see what it comes back with. Anything that looks interesting to you, go ahead and grab that and do a project and see what you can get done out of it. Finally, you can use AI to help you answer questions when you get stuck or run into problems. So, for instance, if you're not understanding a concept very well, you can ask AI to explain it in a different way. If you're trying to write some code and you're not sure how something works, you can ask AI specifically how a feature of JavaScript or Python works and get back answers. If you have a piece of code that's just not working and you cannot get it to work, you can ask AI to look at it and tell you why it's not working. It's nice because you almost have your own personal teaching assistant in the AI that you can use to help answer your questions. Okay, the last tip I have for you is to remember to have fun. Learning any new skill is going to have constant challenges, but if you keep a playful mindset about learning how to code, then you'll have a much easier time. And remember, you're not alone here. Anyone that's good at coding is also still learning how to code because nobody knows it all. Even the most senior dev you've ever met or even heard of, they're still learning new things all the time. And that's what makes software engineering fun year after year. I hope this helps you on your journey to learn how to code. If you liked the mindset tips about learning a new skill, I have another video where I share the top 3 mindset skills you need to be a great software engineer. The link should be showing up on screen about now if you want to check it out. Please subscribe to my channel for new content. It helps me out. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.